After a long day at the office, where the hum of fluorescent lights and the rustle of legal documents had been her constant companions, Rachel found herself yearning for the quiet solitude of her apartment. The city's relentless energy pulsed around her as she walked through the lobby, her footsteps echoing off the marble floor, a rhythmic reminder of the life she had meticulously built after the untimely death of her late husband. The anniversary of his passing had just slipped by, a day she marked not with fanfare, but with a solemn, private remembrance that left her feeling both introspective and strangely untethered. The apartment door closed behind her with a soft, reassuring click, and she was enveloped by the familiar scent of home, a subtle blend of the fresh lavender she kept in the entryway and the faint, metallic temps of rain that clung to the air after a sudden summer storm. The living space greeted her with its clean lines and muted color palette, a modernist haven that she had carefully curated to reflect both her professional success and her personal taste for understated elegance. This was the sanctuary she shared with Ethan, her stepson, who had grown into a young man under her watchful eye. Together they had learned to navigate the absence left by his father, a man whose laughter had once filled these rooms and whose memory lingered in the quiet corners and carefully chosen art that adorned the walls. Rachel slipped off her shoes, allowing her stocking feet to sink into the plush softness of the area rug. She expected to find Ethan out, perhaps at the library or a study group, as he worked toward completing his university degree. Instead, the ambient glow of the television drew her attention to the living room, where the sight that awaited her was nothing short of surreal. There on the screen, frozen in time, was an image from her past, a video she had made for her late husband, a token of their intimate bond and a testament to the love they had shared. The woman on the screen was her, yet it was a version of herself she kept hidden away. A woman unburdened by grief and alive with the joy of shared secrets and whispered desires. Ethan sat on the couch, his body tensed as he turned to face her. The remote control lay abandoned on the coffee table, its power to pause the intrusive memory of her past seeming almost crude in the face of the emotional tumult that now filled the room. The air between them was charged with a potent mix of embarrassment and a curious tension that neither of them could fully explain. Rachel's heart, usually so steady and controlled, began to race as she struggled to process the scene before her. "Ethan," she began, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions that churned within her. "What is this?" He swallowed hard, his eyes searching hers for understanding, for forgiveness. "I'm sorry, Rachel. I was going through some old files on the TV and I came across this. I had no idea it was. I didn't watch much, I swear. Asterisk, I just ... I didn't know what to do when I realized it was you." Rachel's mind raced, her thoughts a chaotic jumble of hurt, confusion, and an unsettling awareness of the charged atmosphere that now enveloped them both. The videos were her secret, a series of intimate moments captured for the eyes of her husband alone, a man whose presence was a ghostly whisper in the life she now led. With a composure born of years in the courtroom, Rachel took a deep breath, her gaze never leaving Ethan's. "Ethan, this was private. It was meant for your father's eyes only. I need you to understand that this wasn't for anyone else to see." Ethan nodded, his face a canvas of regret and discomfort. "I understand. Rachel, asterisk, I never should have clicked on it. I'll delete it. Won't happen again." Rachel gave a curt nod, her mind already moving past the shock of the moment. "I think it's best if we both take some time to absorb this. I'm going to my room to change. We'll talk more about this later." Without waiting for a response, Rachel turned on her heel and walked down the hallway, each step a deliberate act of self-possession. She closed the door to her bedroom behind her, leaning back against it as the reality of the situation settled upon her like a heavy shroud. In the solitude of her bedroom, Rachel found herself enveloped by the stillness that only true isolation can provide. The walls, painted in a soothing shade of soft gray, seemed to close in around her, creating a sanctuary where the day's events could no longer reach her. She moved to the window, the cityscape sprawling before her like a sea of lights, each one a distant reminder of the life that continued to pulse beyond her personal crisis. Her heart, which had been pounding with the adrenaline of unexpected discovery, began to slow to a more manageable rhythm. The initial shock of finding Ethan engrossed in her most private memories had started to fade, replaced by a creeping sense of nostalgia that wrapped around her like a familiar shawl. It was a bittersweet feeling, tinged with the poignancy of a love that had been cut short by fate's cruel hand. With trembling fingers, Rachel reached for her phone, the sleek device a lifeline to a past she had carefully locked away. She navigated to a hidden folder, one that housed the intimate videos she had made for her late husband. Mementos of a time when their love was an unbreakable bond. A flame that burned bright against the encroaching darkness of his illness. As she opened the folder, the videos greeted her like old friends, each thumbnail a frozen moment of vulnerability and desire. She hesitatingly tapped on the first file, the one that Ethan had inadvertently stumbled upon. The screen came to life, and there she was, her younger self, full of life and unspoken promises. Her movements both tender and tantalizing as she explored the reaches of her own sensuality. The video was a dance of light and shadow, capturing the delicate curve of her spine, the gentle rise and fall of her breath, and the way her hair cascaded like a waterfall of silk over her shoulders. It was a visual symphony of longing and release, a testament to a love that had reveled in the beauty of the physical connection. Rachel watched, her eyes tracing the lines of her on-screen form with a mixture of fondness and a deep, aching sorrow. The sound of her own soft moans filled the room, a ghostly echo of a time when her world had been whole, complete with the presence of the man who had known her better than anyone else. One by one, she played the videos, each a capsule of desire and intimacy. In some, she laughed, her eyes sparkling with mischief as she teased the camera, her husband's unseen gaze. In others, she was a picture of concentration, her brow furrowed and her lips parted in silent entreaty to the man she loved. Beyond reason, as she immersed herself in these intimate memories, Rachel felt a complex tapestry of emotions unfurl within her. There was shame, certainly, in the knowledge that these private moments had been witnessed by another, especially by Ethan, the child she had helped raise, who is now a man in his own right. But alongside the shame was a flicker of something else, something that she could not readily identify. It was a sense of connection to the woman on the screen. A woman who had been unafraid to embrace her sexuality and to share it with the one she held dear. The videos were more than just acts of physical intimacy. They were love letters in motion, each frame infused with the unspoken vows of a woman who had promised to be with her partner in spirit, even when the cruel reality of his illness kept them apart. They were a celebration of life in the face of impending loss, a defiant stance against the encroaching shadow of mortality. As the final video played out, Rachel found herself enveloped in a cocoon of remembrance. The woman on the screen had been her in her truest form, uninhibited, devoted, and fiercely alive. It was a version of herself that she had tucked away in the recesses of her heart, protected by layers of responsibility and the daily grind of her career. With a sigh that seemed to carry the weight of the world, Rachel set her phone aside and returned her gaze to the city below. The lights twinkled like distant stars, each one a beacon of hope and possibility. She knew that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, that the dynamic between her and Ethan had been irrevocably altered by the evening's revelations. But as she stood there, the echoes of her past wrapped around her like a comforting embrace. Rachel also knew that she was strong enough to face the consequences of this new reality, strong enough to forge a path forward, even in the face of uncertainty and change. The night had brought with it a cascade of emotions, a journey through time that had left her both vulnerable and strangely empowered. As she prepared for the conversation that would inevitably come, Rachel drew strength from the memories of her late husband, from the love that they had shared, and from the knowledge that, no matter what, she would always remain true to herself and to the legacy of their bond. The following evening, the apartment was bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun. The city skyline outside Rachel's windows, a canvas of oranges, pinks, and purples that belied the tension coiled within the walls of her home. The day had passed in a blur of meetings and legal briefs. But as the hour approached for Rachel to confront the uncomfortable truth that hung between her and Ethan, time seemed to slow to a crawl. She had spent the previous night adrift in a sea of memories, the images from her private video collection lingering in her mind like specters refusing to be exorcised. The decision to speak with Ethan had not come easily, but it was necessary. A step toward addressing the elephant in the room that their shared discovery had created. As she entered the living room, Ethan was already there, perched awkwardly on the edge of the couch. His eyes, so much like his father's, met hers with a mixture of guilt and an almost defiant curiosity. The air was thick with anticipation, each breath heavy with the weight of what was to come. "Ethan," Rachel began, her voice betraying none of the turmoil that churned within her. "We need to talk about what happened last night. It's important that we're honest with each other." He nodded, his gaze dropping to his hands, which were folded tightly in his lap. "I know, Rachel. I'm sorry about invading your privacy like that. It was wrong of me." Rachel took a seat across from him, her posture erect, her demeanor that of a seasoned attorney about to address a jury. "It's more than just an invasion of privacy, Ethan. Those videos were deeply personal, meant for someone who is no longer with us. They represent a part of my life that I never intended to share with anyone else." Ethan's eyes flickered up to meet hers, and for a moment she saw a flash of the boy he had once been, vulnerable and seeking her approval. "I understand that, Rachel, and I swear I didn't mean to watch as much as I did, but I can't deny that I was captivated by what I saw. You were beautiful. There's a part of me that wants to understand that side of you, the side that my father knew so well." Rachel's breath caught in her throat. The confession was unexpected, and it opened a Pandora's box of emotions that she had not been prepared to confront. Part of her was appalled by his admission, while another part, a part she had long kept under lock and key, was intrigued by the sincerity in his voice, by the undeniable allure of being seen as desirable by someone so closely connected to her past. The silence that followed was charged with an electricity that seemed to crackle in the air around them. Rachel knew that the smart thing to do would be to shut down the conversation, to reiterate the boundaries that had been so clearly crossed. But as she looked at Ethan, she saw not just the young man who had stumbled upon her secret, but a link to the man she had loved and lost, a man who had cherished her in ways that no one else ever had. With a deep breath, Rachel found herself stepping onto a precarious tightrope, balancing between propriety and the seductive pull of a connection that defied easy explanation. "Ethan, what you're suggesting is not appropriate. It crosses lines that should never be crossed. But I also understand the curiosity, the need to feel close to someone who has left an indelible mark on both our lives." Ethan watched her, his expression a blend of hope and trepidation. "I don't want to make things awkward between us, Rachel. I feel like there's so much I don't know about my father, about who he was when he was with you. Maybe if we watched the videos together, it could be a way for me to feel closer to him, to understand the love that you shared." Rachel's mind raced, her heart pounding with the audacity of the proposition. It was a risky gamble, one that could potentially shatter the fragile equilibrium of their familial relationship. And yet, there was a certain logic to it, a twisted rationale that appealed to the part of her that longed to honor the memory of her late husband by sharing with Ethan the passion and depth of their connection. "All right," she heard herself say the words foreign on her tongue. "We'll watch the videos together tomorrow evening, but this is not about indulging in voyeurism or exploiting my past. It's about paying tribute to the man we both loved and about finding a way to move forward. Without forgetting where we've been, a cautious optimism spread across Ethan's face, and he nodded in agreement. I promise, Rachel. This means a lot to me. Probably more than you realize. Rachel stood, her decision solidifying with each passing moment. We'll watch one video and then we'll discuss it. This is a one-time arrangement and we need to establish some ground rules. First and foremost, this stays between us. No one else can ever know about this. Of course, Ethan agreed quickly, the gravity of the situation clearly etched on his features. I'll respect your privacy, Rachel. I won't tell anyone. Ever. With the terms laid out before them, Rachel felt a strange sense of calm descend upon her. She had made her choice, and now she would have to live with the consequences, whatever they might be. As she prepared to delve into her past with Ethan, by her side, she knew that the next day evening would be one of the most challenging and potentially transformative of her life. The morning sun cast a golden hue over the city skyline, its warmth seeping into the high-rise apartment that Rachel called home. The events of the previous evening lingered in her mind, a series of images and emotions that she could neither ignore nor fully comprehend. As she prepared for the day ahead, her thoughts were consumed by the decision she had made, a decision that would irrevocably alter the dynamic between her and Ethan throughout the day. Rachel's focus was split between her legal work and the plans she was formulating for the evening. There was an undeniable thrill that came with the idea of sharing her intimate videos with Ethan. A free song of excitement that mingled with the somber undertones of their shared loss. She was acutely aware of the boundaries they were about to cross, and yet there was a part of her that reveled in the audacity of their unconventional pact. As the afternoon gave way to the soft glow of twilight, Rachel retreated to her bedroom to prepare for their arranged viewing. She selected a black dress from her wardrobe, a garment that clung to her curves like a second skin and boasted a daring neckline that hinted at the sensuality lurking beneath her professional exterior. Her makeup was applied with precision, each stroke a testament to her determination to maintain control over the unfolding narrative. The scent of dinner preparations wafted through the apartment as Rachel expertly maneuvered around the kitchen. The clink of glassware and the sizzle of searing meat a backdrop to her culinary endeavors. The table was set with an attention to detail that spoke of her desire to create an atmosphere of refined intimacy. Ethan appeared in the dining room doorway, his eyes widening slightly as he took in the scene before him. "You've outdone yourself, Rachel," he remarked, his gaze lingering on the elegant place settings and the flickering candles that cast a warm, inviting light over the room. "Only the best for our unique circumstances," Rachel replied, her voice carrying a hint of playfulness that belied the underlying tension. She handed Ethan a glass of the rich, ruby red wine she had chosen to complement their meal, her fingers brushing against his in a deliberate act of provocation. As they sat down to dinner, the conversation flowed with an ease that surprised them both. They spoke of art, of music, of the myriad ways in which the city had shaped their respective worldviews. And yet beneath the veneer of casual discourse, there was an undercurrent of something darker, something that pulsed with the promise of unrestrained desire. "Have to admit," Ethan said, his eyes locked on Rachel's over the rim of his wineglass, "I've been thinking about those videos last 2 days. It's like I'd been given a glimpse into a world that was completely off limits to me, a world that I can't stop thinking about." Rachel smiled, a slow, knowing curve of her lips that spoke volumes. Curiosity is a dangerous thing. Ethan. It can lead you down paths that you never expected to travel. "Is that a warning?" he asked, the corners of his mouth turning up in a challenge. "Consider it a friendly reminder," Rachel countered, her gaze never wavering from his. "We're about to cross a line that can't be uncrossed. Are you sure you're prepared for what comes next?" Ethan held her stare, his expression one of determined resolve. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." Their exchange was a delicate dance of words and innuendo, each sentence laden with the promise of things left unsaid. As they finished their meal and the last of the wine was poured, Rachel could feel the anticipation building within her. A heady mixture of excitement and trepidation that threatened to overwhelm her carefully constructed facade. With dinner concluded, they moved to the living room. The soft hum of the city outside a stark contrast to the storm of emotions that raged within the confines of their shared space. The television screen flickered to life as Rachel navigated to the video folder, her heart racing with the knowledge of what was to come. "Remember, Ethan?" she said, her voice barely above a whisper as she handed him the remote. "This is about honoring the past, not about exploiting it." Ethan nodded, his hand closing around the remote with a sense of finality. "I understand, Rachel. I won't forget." As the first images of the video began to play, Rachel felt a shiver of anticipation course through her body. The woman on the screen was a testament to a love that had been fierce and all-consuming, a love that had refused to be diminished by the specter of illness and loss. The apartment's living room was enveloped in a warm, golden glow. The furniture, arranged in such a way as to create an intimate oasis amidst the urban sprawl that lay just beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. The screen flickered to life, casting an ethereal light over the room as the opening notes of a sultry jazz tune filled the air. Rachel, the woman who had meticulously orchestrated this evening, felt a surge of adrenaline as the video began to play. On the screen, Rachel, a younger, more carefree version of herself, entered the frame. Her body clad in a white dress that accentuated her curves, while exuding an air of innocence. Her movements were fluid and graceful, each step a testament to the unspoken love and desire that she had once shared with her late husband. The dance was a visual serenade, a celebration of her femininity and the magnetic pull of attraction that had defined her relationship with the man behind the camera. As the music swelled, Rachel's on-screen counterpart began a slow, deliberate undressing, each piece of clothing peeled away with a sensuality that was both playful and deeply erotic. The white dress slid from her shoulders, pulling at her feet to reveal a body clad only in delicate lingerie that highlighted the smoothness of her skin and the gentle swell of her breasts. Ethan watched, transfixed by the captivating display. Before him, his eyes traced the contours of Rachel's form as she moved with an almost hypnotic grace. Her every motion a silent invitation to explore the depths of her passion. The video was rich with details, the way her hair cascaded down her back, the soft curve of her hips, the gentle parting of her lips as she lost herself in the dance. Rachel, seated beside Ethan on the couch, could not help but cast surreptitious glances in his direction, for attorney's instinct for reading people now turned inward, assessing the impact of her past on the young man who was both a part of her family and a stranger. She could see the effect the video was having on him. The subtle changes in his posture, the heightened color in his cheeks, and the unmistakable bulge that strained against the fabric of his trousers. The air in the room grew thick with an unspoken tension, a palpable electricity that seemed to crackle between them. Rachel felt a flush of heat rise to her cheeks as she recognized the power she held over Ethan in this moment, a power that was both exhilarating and fraught with the potential for disaster. As the video progressed, the sensuality of the dance intensified the play of light and shadow across Rachel's skin, creating a visual feast that was impossible to ignore. The woman on the screen was a vision of unbridled sensuality, her actions a wordless declaration of her love and desire for the man who had once been her entire world. Ethan shifted uncomfortably beside her, his breathing shallow. His gaze locked on the screen as Rachel's image continued to dance. To undress, to revel in the joy of being desired by someone who was no longer there to appreciate the beauty of her surrender. Rachel, too, felt the weight of the moment pressing down upon her. The knowledge that she was sharing something deeply personal with someone who represented both the past and the uncertain future. The decision to allow Ethan this intimate glimpse into her history with his father was a bridge between their shared loss and a new, complex chapter in their relationship. The video ended as it had begun, with music and the soft, rhythmic sound of Rachel's laughter, a sound that now seemed to echo through the years. A haunting reminder of love's lost in the passage of time. The screen went dark, leaving Rachel and Ethan in the dim glow of the apartment. The silence that enveloped them, a stark contrast to the crescendo of emotions that the video had stirred within them both. Ethan, his gaze still locked on the now dark television screen, drew in a deep breath as if to steady himself. When he finally spoke, his voice was a mixture of awe and unvarnished desire. "Rachel, I don't even know what to say. You were stunning, so full of life and passion. It's clear that my father saw in you a beauty that went far beyond the physical. I've never seen anyone dance like that with such uninhibited grace." Rachel felt a flush of warmth spread across her cheeks at his words, a potent cocktail of pride, and a burgeoning sense of arousal that she had not felt in years. It was as if Ethan's admiration had awakened something within her, a part of herself that she had locked away after her husband's passing, deeming it too dangerous, too raw, too exposed to the light of day. Ethan turned to face her, his eyes searching hers for a signal that might indicate whether the ground they were treading on was solid or quicksand. "I know this is probably inappropriate, and I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but I find myself longing to see the real you, not just the memory of you on a screen." To be in the presence of that kind of beauty, it's intoxicating. The room seemed to shrink around them, the walls closing in as Rachel processed his words. The air between them was electric, charged with the promise of something that was both undeniably exciting and irrefutably taboo. She knew that what Ethan was asking for, what he was expressing a desire to witness, was a line that, once crossed, could never be uncrossed. For a moment, Rachel hesitated, torn between the dictates of societal norms and the undeniable pull of her own longing, a longing to feel desired, to experience the rush of being the object of someone's deepest, most fervent desires. It was a temptation that gnawed at her, a siren's call that beckoned her toward a future that was uncertain and fraught with peril. And then, with a resolve that seemed to come from a place deep within her, Rachel made her decision. The evening had been a carefully orchestrated symphony of revelations and shared intimacies, and she was not prepared to let the momentum slip away. She had lived a life defined by caution and control, but tonight she would allow herself to embrace the unknown, rising from the couch with a fluid grace that mirrored the movements of her on-screen avatar. Rachel met Ethan's gaze with a steady, unwavering stare. "I want you to watch me, Ethan, to really see me, just as I am." With that, she began to dance, her body moving to a rhythm that only she could hear. Each step, each sway of her hips, was a testament to her femininity and the magnetic pull of her own sensuality. As she moved, Rachel's hands drifted to the hem of her black dress, her fingers deftly working the fabric until it slid from her shoulders and pooled at her feet, leaving her clad in a red lingerie set that was as daring as it was beautiful. Ethan sat motionless, his breath hitching in his throat as he took in the sight of Rachel, the real Rachel, dancing for him in the flesh. The red lingerie was a bold declaration of her confidence and the silent invitation she was extending to him. It was a visual feast of lace and satin that left little to the imagination, highlighting the curves and contours of her body with an elegance that was both sophisticated and undeniably erotic. The tension in the room was palpable, the air thick with the scent of Rachel's perfume and the unmistakable aroma of desire that seemed to hang between them as she danced. Rachel felt a sense of empowerment that she had not experienced since the days when her late husband had been her audience of one. She was in control, the master of her own destiny. And the knowledge that she held Ethan's attention so completely was a heady sensation that she found herself eager to explore further. Ethan, for his part, was utterly captivated by the vision. Before him, the reality of Rachel's presence, her vitality, her beauty, her raw sexual energy, was more than he had ever dared to hope for. He watched, transfixed, as she moved with a grace and confidence that took his breath away. As the dance drew to a close, Rachel found herself standing before Ethan. Her chest heaving with the exertion of her performance, her skin flushed. With the thrill of the moment, their eyes met, and in that instant, carefully constructed barriers that had kept their relationship within the bounds of propriety came crashing down. With a sense of inevitability that was both exhilarating and terrifying, Rachel closed the distance between them, her gaze never wavering from Ethan's. She could see the desire mirrored in his eyes, a reflection of her own deep-seated need, a need to be seen, to be wanted, to be loved in the most elemental sense of the word. The world seemed to narrow to the small space that separated them, and then, with a tenderness that belied the intensity of the moment, their lips met in a searing, passionate kiss. It was a kiss that spoke of shared secrets and unspoken desires. A kiss that acknowledged the complexities of their situation, while also reveling in the sheer, undeniable attraction that pulsed between them. The kiss deepened, and Rachel felt herself being pulled into a whirlwind of sensation, the warmth of Ethan's body against hers. The taste of his lips, the insistent pressure of his hands as they explored the contours of her waist, her hips, the gentle swell of her backside. It was as if they were both starved for physical connection, desperate to bridge the gap between past and present with the currency of their mutual need. Their embrace was a mingling of caution and abandon, a delicate balance of give and take that left them both breathless and yearning for more. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated desire, a moment that would change the course of their lives forever. As the initial fervor of their kiss subsided, Rachel pulled back slightly, her eyes searching Ethan's for some sign of regret, some indication that he recognized the gravity of what they had just done. But all she saw was a reflection of her own deep-seated need, a need to be seen, to be wanted, to be loved in the most elemental sense of the word. The silence that enveloped them was a testament to the enormity of their transgression. And yet, neither of them seemed willing or able to pull away from the precipice that they had willingly approached. The weight of their decision hung in the air, a tangible presence that seemed to pulse in time with the steady rhythm of their hearts. Rachel's breath came in short, sharp gasps, the heat of Ethan's gaze on her body sending ripples of anticipation. Coursing through her veins, she stood before him, clad in the scarlet lingerie that seemed to accentuate her every curve. A silent testament to the newfound courage that had taken hold of her. Ethan, his eyes dark with an unspoken longing, reached out to gently caress the contours of her hips, his fingertips grazing the delicate lace that adorned her figure. The contact was electric, a spark of connection that caused Rachel to inhale sharply, her body responding to his touch with an eagerness that left no room for doubt or hesitation. "Rachel," Ethan murmured, his voice a low rumble that seemed to resonate within her. "You are exquisite, more beautiful than I ever could have imagined." The sincerity in his words, coupled with the raw vulnerability that shone in his eyes, served to dissolve the last of Rachel's reservations. She stepped forward, closing the distance between them, her hands coming to rest on the firm expanse of his chest. Beneath her palms, she could feel the steady thrum of his heartbeat, a primal rhythm that seemed to echo her own rapidly beating heart, with a boldness that was entirely foreign to her. Rachel began to explore the contours of Ethan's body, her fingers deftly working the buttons of his shirt. Each newly exposed inch of skin was a revelation, a discovery that left her yearning for a connection that was deeper and more profound than anything she had ever experienced before. As she pushed the fabric of his shirt from his shoulders, Rachel leaned in, her lips grazing the hollow at the base of Ethan's throat. The taste of his skin, mingled with the faintest hint of his cologne, was intoxicating, fueling her burgeoning desire for a closeness that transcended the boundaries of their shared history. Ethan's hands moved to cradle Rachel's face, his thumbs gently caressing her cheekbones as he tilted her head back, capturing her lips in a kiss that was both a tender inquiry and a fervent declaration of his growing feelings for her. It was a kiss that existed solely in the here and now, a meeting of souls that acknowledged the depths of their connection while also reveling in the freedom that came from surrendering to the moment. Their bodies moved together in a silent dance of mutual exploration, each touch, each caress, drawing them closer to the heart of their shared longing. Rachel could feel the warmth of Ethan's arousal pressing against her, the promise of their impending union, a potent reminder of the thin line they were treading between propriety and the irresistible pull of their desires, seeking to deepen their connection. Ethan guided Rachel back onto the couch, his hands exploring the gentle swell of her breasts, the softness of her belly, the flare of her hips. The lace of her lingerie provided a delicate barrier to his touch, a teasing friction that heightened the sense of urgency that was building within them both. With a fluid grace that mirrored the movements of their earlier dance, Rachel found herself straddling Ethan's lap, her body aligning with his in a way that felt both familiar and thrillingly new. The heat of her core cradled the firm length of his manhood. The mere suggestion of their bodies joining together enough to send a shiver of anticipation coursing through her veins. Ethan's breath was hot against her neck as he trailed a series of gentle kisses along the column of her throat. Each contact point a spark that threatened to ignite the simmering passion that pulsed just beneath the surface of their interactions. Rachel's hands roamed over the broad expanse of his back, her fingers tracing the path of his spine as they yielded to the rhythm of their shared desire. In the quiet of the apartment, with only the sound of their mingled breaths to fill the space, Rachel and Ethan found themselves at a crossroads, a moment where the past and the present converged, and the future hung in the balance, ripe with the promise of what was yet to come. As they navigated the unspoken nuances of their physical connection, they did so with a reverence for the gravity of their situation, their movements driven by a shared need for closeness that went beyond the boundaries of their physical forms. The culmination of their dance was a tender joining of their bodies, a harmonious blending of spirits that left them both teetering on the edge of something that was both profoundly moving and irrevocably transformative. They moved together in a rhythm that was as natural as it was profound, each moment a testament to the depth of their connection and the undeniable power of their shared desires. As they reached the zenith of their shared journey, the world outside, their window seemed to cease to exist, leaving them alone in a universe where nothing mattered but the bond that pulsed between them. The intensity of their release was both a confirmation of their physical compatibility and a symbol of the emotional barriers they had broken down in their quest for a deeper understanding of one another. The living room was steeped in the kind of silence that only comes in the aftermath of profound emotional upheaval. Rachel and Ethan lay side by side on the couch, their bodies still intimately entwined, the air heavy with the scent of their shared passion. The gravity of their situation settled over them like a blanket, a tangible reminder of the line they had so willingly crossed. Rachel was the first to break the silence, her voice a mere whisper against the backdrop of the quiet apartment. "What have we done, Ethan?" she asked, her eyes searching his for some semblance of understanding, some sign that he too was grappling with the enormity of their transgression. Ethan turned to face her, his gaze filled with a mixture of tenderness and regret. "I don't know, Rachel," he replied, his hand reaching out to gently tuck a stray lock of hair behind her ear. "But I do know that I've never felt this kind of connection with anyone before. It's as terrifying as it is exhilarating." They both knew that what they had just experienced was not something that could be easily dismissed or forgotten. It was a seismic shift in the landscape of their relationship, a relationship that had been built on the foundations of shared history and mutual respect, but was now threatened by the volatile addition of their undeniable physical attraction. "We can't ignore this, Ethan. It's too powerful, too intense," Rachel said, her voice steadier now, as if speaking the words aloud gave them a validity that she could not deny. "But we also can't be reckless. We need to think about the implications of our actions, not just for us, but for everyone involved." Ethan nodded, his eyes reflecting the seriousness of their situation. "I agree." We owe it to ourselves and to the memory of my father to handle this with as much care and consideration as possible. We can't let our emotions dictate our actions." The conversation that followed was one of the most honest and open dialogues they had ever shared. They spoke of their fears and their hopes, their doubts and their desires. They discussed the potential fallout from their continued association, the risks to their family dynamics, and the possible impact on their professional lives. Despite the weight of their discussion, there was also an undercurrent of excitement that ran through their words, an acknowledgement of the fierce attraction that had been unleashed between them. It was a force that neither of them could deny, a magnetic pull that seemed to grow stronger with each passing moment as the night wore on. Rachel and Ethan came to a decision that was both momentous and terrifying in its implications. They would continue to explore the connection that pulsed between them, but they would do so with a level of caution and discretion that would protect them from unnecessary scrutiny or unwanted speculation. Their living room, once simply an extension of their daily lives, would become a sanctuary where they could indulge in their shared desire for one another. It would be transformed into a nightly theater, where Rachel's performances were no longer just memories, but vivid shared experiences that served to deepen the bond they had forged in the fires of their forbidden attraction. Each evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the apartment was bathed in the soft glow of twilight, Rachel would once again don the red lingerie that had become a symbol of their illicit trysts. With a dancer's grace and a lover's fervor, she would move to the rhythm of an unseen melody, her body a living testament to the beauty and sensuality that had captivated Ethan from the very beginning.